Hey everyone, Sheila here from Life with Pets. I am not sure if this is working again. I've got an error now. Can everybody see me? The quality is really low at my end. Um, hmm. Let's see. Can you guys let me know if the quality is not good? I am showing that it's unsupported resolution. You need to change the video resolution. The current resolution is, and then it gives the number, which is not supported for this configuration. So quality is fine. Okay. All right. Well, I guess then we are all good to go. I'm showing a lag as well, but hopefully that's okay too. Oh, okay. James says quality is great. So we will go with that in that case. So I am going to get rid of not being able to see me, and I can see the chat. So this week is another live stream. So that is now 2 for 2. I don't think we have ever done 2 live streams back to back. We are going to try and do them every week, but we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But that is the plan, to maybe do 6 o'clock every Friday, and we'll see how that works out. So, all right, so let's see who we've got here. We have the Planted Tank, Jacqueline, the Unpredictable, Caitlin Williams, Elias, Jacqueline, Vanessa, the Planted Tank. I can see and hear you just fine. That's great. Thank you for letting me know. And quality looks fine for us. Okay, quality is great. Okay, that's great. I don't know why then I've got that error code, but I guess it must be okay. So every time I do a stream, you can guarantee there is a problem for sure. So anyway, all right, today I thought we would talk about water changes. I think that every week I'm going to try and pick a topic that I get asked an awful lot, and water changes is one of those things. I get asked how often do we do them and how much do we do them. So I thought that I would do that today, and then I will answer some of you guys' questions as well in the comments. So let me know in the chat how often you do water changes. For us, it varies from tank to tank, depending on obviously what's in it, the stocking level, whether it's really heavily planted or not. So I think that that can make a huge difference. So the Planted Tank, a $10 super chat. Love your channel. Thank you so much. It's rare we ever get them, so when we do, we appreciate them so much. Thank you. That is so kind of you, and thank you for supporting our channel as well. So water changes, let me know in the comments, in the chat, how often you do your water changes. Give me the size of tank, what is in the tank, just like a rough thing. You don't have to list every single fish, and how often you do them. So how much, what's in the tank, and how often you do them. It would be interesting to see everybody's like differing opinions, because this usually can be a hot topic. You know, most people will say, oh, it's got to be 25% once a week, where it really does depend on what you've got in the tank and how big the tank is and all that sort of stuff. So I do think that it's interesting to see other people's opinions. So for us, I will get to questions in the chat, so if you do have questions, just leave them in there. But for us, let's take our like 10, no, actually we've got a 20-gallon divided tank. I do about 40 to 50% on that once a week, and right now there's not a great deal in it. But I still just like to do that amount. Now, Belfin, the goldfish tank, and by the way, I have done a really cute video on him. I did it today and it will be up on Monday, so no, Tuesday. So for those of you that love to see bellfin or goldfish, we have a video coming on him soon, and it is super, super cute. Well, I think it is anyway. It took me a long time to put together, but I do think that it was worth it. So the goldfish tank, as you know, bellfin had his health issues, so he is in a 20-gallon all by himself. He does have, I think, a couple of snails, and he gets 50% about every 5 to 6 days, I would say. Sometimes it is once a week, but we do try and do it twice a week, but it just depends on our schedule. But we do about 50% every 5 to 6 days. So the betta fish tanks on the whole, again, we do about 50% once a week. Most of our tanks we actually do 50% once a week, but the likes of our breeding shrimp and snail tanks, they get 50 to 60% twice a week. So it really does depend on what you've got in a tank to the water changes that you need to do. You might only need to do, 20-25% once a week. I do have one betta fish in a 10-gallon, and that one gets about 20 to 25% once a week. So it varies greatly. I don't think that there's any right and wrong in it particularly. I just think that it depends on obviously your schedule, but you do need to make sure obviously that the fish's health is the main priority. All right, so let's have a look and see. Do you ever have guppies or still have them hard to take care of? I'm assuming is that they are hard to take care of, or are they hard to take care of? We don't still have our guppies. We sold them all off. And as for are they hard to take care of, I don't think they're hard to take care of at all. Just put them in a tank and they will breed like crazy. Usually you need one male to 2 to 3 females, but other than that I think they're really, really easy to take care of. Again, once you get a lot in the tank, then you need to assess what sort of maintenance you want to do, because you will have to increase water changes. 10-gallon, 2 bettas separated every week. Yep, that sounds great. I think that sounds like a good one. I think that is probably most people's go-to, but I think it's one of those things that everyone thinks it's a hard and fast rule, 20-25% once a week. And I think probably for most tanks that does work, but it's not going to work for every tank, because stocking level really does play a huge part in that. Okay, so Pollen Boy says I made it. Welcome. Okay, so you have 2 females, 1 male. My first time trying guppies. I don't think you will have any issues whatsoever. I do think they're probably one of the easiest fish to keep for sure. So I think just go for it and enjoy them. And I think it's really neat as well to see the different colours that you get, because they don't always breed 100% true, and so I do think that it can be interesting to see like the different colour patterns that you might get, unless you have actually got a proven trio. 60 tank, 5 Arandas, 1 Ranchu once a week. Wow, you get away with very little. When we had our 55, and I think we had 5 in it, we had to do that twice a week. We had to do, I think it was like 50% twice a week. It was a lot of work, a lot of work. Okay, so I have a 5-gallon fluval speck and a 15-gallon planted. I do about 60% once a week on both. Yeah, so that's about the same as me. Don't forget to sip your coffee every now and again. For those of you that don't know, Creative Innovations is my son, and last week he made me coffee just as the stream was starting, and at the end of the stream it was stone cold because I think I'd like taken 2 sips out of it. So when this stream was starting, he made me another coffee, so he's given me a reminder I need to every now and again take a sip. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay. Are the ram's horns for sale a mix of colour morphs, or are they mostly brown? Uh, no, we do a mix. I don't think we've currently got any on the website right now. I was going to add some more, but I actually put them on eBay instead this week. But the ram's horns, no, we do. At the moment, we've almost bred out our browns. We have deliberately sold an awful lot of browns, and we've just kept picking them out and picking them out and picking them out. So we do now predominantly have golds, blue and pink. They're our predominant colours, but we do still have browns. So as far as like for breeding true, they're not going to breed true. If you get some from us and they breed, you are going to get sort of like the rainbow of colours. But yeah, we do a mixture, a really good mixture. It really depends on what we have available. On our website, we do them in batches of 10, and we usually send 12 to 14. And out of those 10, you probably would get 5 or 6 brown, and then the rest would be colours. I'm hoping as time goes on, obviously I'm going to have less and less brown, and we are actually getting there. We're getting very, very close to very, very few browns, which is fantastic. All right, let's see. Rhinos Aquatic says 110 gallon, 4 Severums, 2 Angels, 3 Bristlenose, and changes 60% per week. Yeah, it seems to be it's funny because when I see posts on Facebook, it amazes me how crazy people go when you tell them that you change 50 to 60%. You know, they start saying you're going to ruin your cycle, you're going to, you know, damage the tank, the fish aren't going to like it. But to me, I mean, that's, for one, I think it's different for everybody. But for us, that's what's always worked. And so why change what works? You know, the fish are really healthy. All of them in the 125 gallon we've had for over 3 years. Well, I say all of them. The original ones before we added more when we upped the size of the tank, they are all over 3 years old, all extremely healthy. So to me, why change what works? And I don't think, as long as you've got a very established tank, you are not going to ruin the nitrogen cycle at all. Can you control the breeding of guppies here to put the temperature down? That would control, wonder if true. Yeah, I have heard a lot of different stories, but it's not something that I really fully know about like you. Sort of, you know, you've heard that story, don't know if it's true. I have too. I haven't really researched it that much, so I can't really say. Mine was every 5 day and 10 gallon due to bad information for nitrogen cycle, now based on API testing. 1 beta, 2 mystery snails, 10 gallon, 20%, 5 gallon, 1 black devil snail, 10%. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Okay, Andrea Ferris, 29 gallon, 30-ish guppies, 4 ottos, 1 female beta and 8 snails. I'm doing 40% every week. When might you have the magenta mystery snails back in stock? I am telling you, we have got a list. We have a notify when back in stock, and I can see how many are asking and waiting. And I think we are well over about 50 or 60 people waiting on those. We are not going to have any for quite a while. They've not long been born. And so obviously they've got to grow up. So at the very earliest, it would probably be the end of next month. However, I'm not sure how many fully yet we've got, because I mean, you usually get, you know, a really big batch, but obviously they don't all grow up, or some of them have genetic issues or whatever, and so you have to sort of filter through them all. So I really don't know at this point. I'm hoping by the end of July I will have some purples probably ready to go mid-July. But the magenta probably aren't going to be ready until the end of July, possibly even into August. When I had my 55 with the oh, hello Nisi. When I had my 55 with the fancy goldies, I did 75% weekly water changes, and my cycle was fine. I think a cycle will crash if you change the media at the same time. Actually, we used to do both. I'm not recommending it, but we did used to do both, and it never made any difference whatsoever. Although we only did about 50 to 60%, I would say that much more than that, and that is probably true. But whenever we do water changes, I always clean the filters at the same time. Now when I say always, I don't clean the filters weekly. I clean them probably about once a month. The canister filter, we go about every 6 to 8 weeks. Sometimes we let it go a little longer, but we always do it when we do a water change. My fish live longer than I thought. Well, that's a good thing, I guess. Goldfish are so dirty. Yeah, goldfish are really. We with Belfin, we have. He's only in a 20-gallon, and as you know, that's due to health issues. But he's in a 20-gallon, and we have a massive sponge filter in there. But then we also have a hang on the back filter that is for 20 gallons. I think it's an Aqua Clear. And a big mistake a lot of people make is they just think, oh, well, it's a 20-gallon filter for a 20-gallon tank. Whereas with goldfish, that just does not fly. You need at least 3 times the gallon amount. So you would need a 60-gallon filter for a 20-gallon tank with goldfish. But we just put that one on as extra because we have this big sponge filter. But we find that every other week we have to change it out, as in clean it all out. Otherwise, it literally gets to the point it's going to overflow, and that is it's usually within a 14-day period we have to do that. So they are so dirty, so dirty. Okay, need guppy grass, any for sale? I've actually just sold the last 2 today. We had it on earlier and it's already sold. I won't be putting any more on now until I think it's going to be again mid-July. See, the thing is with 4th of July coming up, I don't ship plants after a holiday. We don't ship snails after a holiday because we do usually have issues with packages taking a few days longer just because of the holiday. So sort of that then pushes it out to the 4th is a Thursday. So it will probably be around the 12th to 14th of July before I will be actually putting any more as well. So, all right, let's see. Excuse me. All right, how is your beta? This is suffering with Popeye. Have you found a treatment that works? I also have a beta. This has been suffering for Popeye for 2 months. Tried pretty much everything. Yeah, unfortunately not. We did the treatment and now obviously the treatment is finished. And whilst again, has been the case every time, it is better, but it's definitely not gone. So at this point, I'm not really too sure what we're going to do. I am going to start looking at seeing, well, I have started already, sort of doing research on like tumours or sort of internal bacterial problems or infections and stuff, because I just really don't know where else to go at this point. I feel that we have done everything we can. We've increased the water changes again on that tank. He's now in a 10-gallon because we did do the 1-gallon jar and kept changing it out like we talked about last week. So he's got almond leaves in there and he's on the large water changes again. So I'm not quite sure at this point what we're going to do, but it's a lot better than it was this time last week, but it's still not gone. So let's see. Have a 5-gallon but use a 20-gallon marine like on the back filter. Wow, that must be a whirlpool in there for sure. That must be absolutely huge. If you lose a beta from illness, not water quality, and don't know which one because there was no obvious signs, how long do you wait to put a new one in the tank? That is a difficult one. We've only really had a beta fish die of very obvious illness. The rest of them, usually it's been down to old age. But if it was me, and like everyone would do this differently, a lot of people would probably break down the whole tank, clean absolutely everything. If it was me, I probably would leave it running 1 to 2 weeks, and I would just do a lot of big water changes. Now, like I say, a lot of people will probably not think that's okay. We have done that in the past with a couple that we've had that have sort of, well, in fact, Bandit is one of them with the Popeye, and I just sort of, there was another fish in the tank with him when he died, and so we just left it running. I just sort of did extra water changes. I added in the aquarium salt and it wasn't a problem. So I guess really it depends on what they died of, maybe. So yeah, it's a difficult one to say, because if it was an illness, depending what it was, it could be highly contagious. So All right, where are we? Oh, Dee from Down the Wormhole is here. Hello, Dee. At the start of the video, it is funny and awkward at the same time when you just sat there watching the camera. I know, sometimes it takes a while to tell me that it's filming, and I usually find it is, but yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? So, I haven't actually seen that one yet. That is on my to watch list, Elflower, 1 stars. I haven't watched that yet, so I can't really comment. I've not seen it yet. So I treat the tank or break down the tank. I actually got frustrated and threw out a 10-gallon quarantine tank filter and all last winter. So I'm assuming you had a really big trouble with sickness in that as well. My goldfish are so healthy. That jumped up. I've seen you clean when the fish is still in the tank. I did it once, but always take the fish out. Oh gosh, I could not imagine taking the fish out every time I clean the tank. For mine, again, can't speak for yours, but for mine, I mean, I don't know many people who take the fish out when they clean the tank, and I know a lot of people do it with betta fish, but other fish in general, I don't know of anybody who does that. I know for mine that would be extremely stressful to do it. We always clean with the fish in the tank. Even the betta fish, I never take them out. I think that once you've done it once or twice, then it doesn't bother them at all. Whereas when you're trying to catch them, it tends to freak them out so much more. So yeah, that's not something I would do, but if it works for you, then go for it. Let's see. I brought home a new betta yesterday, and after giving a dozen mystery snail babies to a fish store, have you ever taken in any of your snails to, I can't speak tonight. Have you taken in any of your snails to a fish store for store credit? I haven't. We sell online. We don't really have any decent local stores round by us. The ones that we do have, well, we have a PetSmart and Petco, and then we do have a couple of others. One of them is really good, and I guess if they wanted them, I'd take them, but the other one that I can think of that's fairly local, there's no way I'd send them there. So for me, it's easier to sell them online, and we cannot produce them fast enough to sell them online, so we never have an issue with them at all. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a great way to be able to trade them off like that, because then obviously it can help pay for your hobby. So yeah. Are you British? Yes, I am. We live in the US, but we are British, yes. Oh yeah, my American Blue Ranchu had dropsy. It took about 4 weeks to get it under control. Wow. Yeah, that's a difficult one. I'd say that coffee is lukewarm round about now. Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. Yeah, you're right. It is. It's going to need reheating, for sure. Alright, I bought a Pothos because I couldn't get rid of my high nitrates in my planted 20 long. Will it work? It's not going to get rid of them completely, but it should make a significant difference. It does take time, so that is something that you have to be really, really patient with. If you haven't seen it, we did a video using aquarium plants in our tanks. It's a fairly recent video. If you go check that one out, there were quite a few variety of them, and I have actually been doing testing to do an update for that video, and we have seen a huge drop in the nitrate level, which is absolutely fantastic because it's our 125 gallon and there are a lot of fish in that tank, and so it has really, really helped. Those plants have made a big difference. Usually by the time we were water changing, the nitrates were really getting up there, but when I tested it yesterday, knowing we were going to be water changing today, the nitrates were absolutely wonderful. So it has made a big difference. All right. When adding water, I'm afraid the conditioner not working while they are in. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, I mean, we usually put the water conditioner in as the water goes in, and again, it's never been a problem. But I guess I can understand that. What I do, because we use a pond pump to fill up the tanks, then what I do is I usually fill, well, I say my son, we usually will fill it up with water, and then we add the prime in, so it's actually sitting in the bucket. So the first lot that goes into the tank, it has actually got prime in, so that that is then dealt with. Then all the future water is perfectly fine for that particular tank, that is. Oh, thank you, Creative Innovations. There's the link if you do want to see that video with the house plants, then the link is actually there. So all right. I have lost my place. My guppies always die, but they are classified to keep as easy. Are they sensitive or just hard to keep? And they are neither. I would maybe check your water parameters, because they do need, the water does need to fall within certain parameters, and I don't know them off the top of my head. You'd have to look them up. But if you tested your water, you would find out whether your water is too hard or too soft for them. So I would do that. All right. So I went to Pets at Home today and got 9 new betas, 8 females and 1 male. One of the 8 females is a crown tail. To me, that's rare. Yeah, crown tails here. I wouldn't say they're particularly, well, actually in the stores, I guess they are. The females are for sure. Males, not so much. Oh dear. Tons of houseplants always helps the nitrates water. Fish water makes houseplants so happy. In my office at work, I have let me count 24 that need watering, so I have to do large water changes. Yeah, we do that as well. I go around and water all the plants, and we've got plants down the side of our house that's like under a cover, and then our porch plants, so they rarely get the rain, so we take ours out, and they are all so healthy, so healthy. So how long does it take for Beta Fry to get fully grown? I guess that depends on the work that you're willing to put in. I would not recommend power growing them. And that's where you basically feed an awful lot and do an awful lot of water changes, and then they will really grow very quickly. But typically to full grown, it really depends. You can't really, I mean, a lot of the time you will see these betas coming in from Thailand, and they say they are 3 months old or 4 months old, and if that is the case, then they have been power grown, and that can very often shorten their lifespan. So I would say sort of to full grown is about 6 months if you were to sort of do it as a slower progression, but I guess it all depends on, like, say, how you actually bring them up. Alright, my new beta has rather long flowing fins, and I'm concerned he may need quite a few resting places. He has a floating beta log and guppy grass. Any other recommendations on what to add besides a beta leaf? I would say the guppy grass would do it. We grow our guppy grass floating, so it doesn't actually have to be in the bottom planted. It is literally just free floating, and the beta fish love it. So if you can do that, then it could be floating along the top, and they can rest in it that way. Another plant that's really good is Anchorias, because again it can be grown floating, and so the betas do love to sort of like rest on the top of it. We use that a lot on ours, an awful lot. So all right. Is it better to buy betas online or at a local store? I guess it depends what you've got locally. If you're limited locally, then obviously online. If you have a reputable store locally, I would say do a reputable store. However, I do think that it is good to support ethical breeders. However, I know that obviously that can get expensive because of shipping and things like that. So I think it really depends on what you've got locally, and then obviously financial circumstances as well. You know, it's all very well somebody to sit there and say you should not buy from a pet store, or but at the end of the day, I think that not everybody can, afford $15-20 shipping on top of the beta fish. You know, you could spend that on the supplies and food and you know, the plants and stuff. So I think that it really does depend what you've got locally. We try to buy responsibly, so that we're not sort of supporting what we don't like, but that's not always the case. It depends where you live. Sheila, I've learned from you that it is okay to do water changes without removing the fish. I mastered the art and the fish are not bothered. Been doing this more than 2 years now. Yeah, for me personally, I do think that's the best way for all fish, but even betta fish. I mean, ours don't even flinch when we start cleaning them. Whereas for me, when you start catching them and putting them in cups or bowls or jugs, that is so stressful for them. Whereas if they get used to the siphon going in, and it's just so much better for them. Well, that's what I think anyway. I know a lot of people would disagree with me, but that's what I think. So yeah, I think that it's much, much better. Taller Nubius, yeah, that would be a good choice too. Are butterfly half moon bettas normally expensive? The butterfly is just a pattern, and I guess it can be. It just depends. I mean, again, it depends where you get them from, but they usually do tend to sell for more, just simply because that obviously that pattern has taken some time to breed into them. So and so that pattern has to be, I want to say, perfect. So yeah, sometimes they can be more expensive. My betta fish hates me, flares at me every morning. Well, it's healthy for it, if nothing else. Thank you guys for the tips. How many bettas do you have? I currently have 4. They are the best fish in my opinion. How many do we have? Right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we've only got 4 right now as well. We did actually get a new one just recently, and unfortunately it did not last very long at all. In fact, we didn't even get to show it, and we have got no idea. In fact, I think I mentioned it last week that we got 2 new ones. Yeah, I think I did actually on the stream last week, and we've got no idea what happened. I think we had him for, I think it was 4 days, and he was absolutely gorgeous. We had him for, I think it was 4 days, 4 or 5 days, and woke up one morning and he was just dead. And everything else in the tank is fine. I mean, he was in a tank with shrimp and snails, and they are really water sensitive. But obviously the first thing I always do is test the water if a fish dies, to see was it the water parameters. But the water parameters were just fine. So we've got no idea what happened. It's always so sad, and I get more sad and frustrated when I don't know why. Because obviously I've only just brought it home, and that's happened. So yeah, that was not nice. I wish PetSmart and Petco would treat all bettas better. Remove those cups. I totally agree. Totally agree. Daisy, Picasso, Riley and Leo. That is right. That is the 4 betta fish that we have. For planted aquariums, what do you need? Obviously plants. You need to decide, do you want to do low light plants, as in, low light plants are I guess what you would call low tech plants, that you don't need to be worrying about having a really strong light, you don't need to worry about CO2 and all that sort of stuff. So I think that you do need a fairly decent light on your tank. You also need something to feed the plants. That's the one thing most people forget. If you're not going to use a plant substrate, and you don't have to, you can have gravel or you can have sand, but if you use those mediums, then you need to have something that will feed the plants. So if you have, let's say, an Amazon swords in there, they're a very popular beginner plant and they're very easy. You need to feed them, and so you would use root tabs, and root tabs will then feed the roots of that plant, and they will they will grow really well. If you have Anubias, then ideally you do need fertilizer. Now we don't use it, and ours are exceptionally healthy because they do feed off the minerals in the water and the nitrates, so they do get food that way. However, if you've just got sort of one beta and one snail, say, in a tank, then the likelihood of them producing enough food for the plants it's not very likely. So you do need something to feed them. I would say that's probably the most important thing, and it's not expensive. You know, people very often, we sell them on our website, and you know, people will often say, wow, $15 is an awful lot, and I think it's 20 or 25 tabs, but they will last you a really long time, because in the likes of a 10 or 20 gallon tank, you're only going to use between 3 or 6 of them, and then you only replace them about every 2 to 3 months. So you can see they're going to last a really, really long time. So, but yeah, I would say food for the plants is a good thing, and a good light. We use the Night Crew. They're the ones that we use the most, and our plants grow wonderfully. So okay, snails make a lot of waste and make my fine substrate dirty. What can I do? Yeah, it's just a hazard of having snails. Obviously need to be vacuuming it out every time you do a water change, but there's not a great deal you can do otherwise, short of rehoming the snails. That's just the way it is with them. So can you have female betas together? In my opinion, no. Which I know is going to be very, very controversial, but no, we have done it in the past, and having done so much more research on it since, I just do not think it is a very healthy environment for them. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can put fish together in a tank does not mean you should. And I think that in most cases they live a much shorter lifespan, which that has got to tell you something in and of itself. And they live in a constant state of stress. So I think that for me personally, whilst yes, we have done it, and on the whole, yes, it was successful, but like with most sororities, they will not live as long as the males do, living alone, or females living separately. That I just think that it's just not the right thing to do. We actually do have a full video on it, so if you want to go to the channel, you will actually find, I think I called it something like Beta Sorority's Good Idea or Not. It's something along those lines. Okay, let me see. Bitty Oliver, I'm such a big fan. I love your dividers. Well, thank you very much. How often do I do a water change for a 20 gallon divided with only 2 betas? Both sides have their own filter. Is every 2 weeks good? Yeah, every 2 weeks is okay. The only thing you do have to remember is water changes are needed, and it's not necessarily due to the waste, you know, I mean, a beta on either side. Let's say that's all you've got. I don't know what you've got in your tank, but let's just say you have got a beta fish on one side and one on the other. Then obviously 2 fish in a 20 gallon is not a lot, but you have to replace water to replace the minerals as well. So I would say that don't go any longer than that, because just because you have a filter doesn't mean that you don't need to do water changes. Love the root tabs and the dividers. Well, thank you, Andrea. Can guppies go with betas? We have done it and had no issues. However, you will equally talk to as many people that would tell you that they have had a lot of issues. I think it just depends on the beta fish when it comes down to it. We did it with several of our beta fish and never had a problem, but I do know that as a rule that it can be an issue, but I do think tank size has a lot to do with it. Ours were in a 20 gallon long. It was very, very heavily planted, and the beta fish, I think we did it with a male and a female, not together, I hasten to add, and we didn't have any problems whatsoever. So yeah. All right. Where are we? Let's see. What if you buy female betas at Petco? They have female betas together. What if you get those betas? To me, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter whether they're together or not. The minute you take them out of that pet store, they're going to bag them individually. You're going to put them into a brand new environment, and so it's like the process starts all over again. Also, I have seen the tanks that you're talking about, because ours does do it at our Petco. They do females all together, and if you watch them for long enough, you will see the stress stripes, you will see just the chasing, you will, if you actually look at the way the beta fish posture is and things like that, then I just think that it's just not, it's just, to me, it's just not worth it. I think that just because we can doesn't mean we should. You know, in the wild, obviously females will come sort of in contact with each other, but they also have a huge space to get away from each other. When you're putting them in a glass box, they have no choice but to be stuck with each other and get not, you know, if they're not getting on, they're going to fight. So if it's something that you still intend to do, all I would say is just make sure you have a backup plan, because most will fail eventually, and so you need to be able to house them all separately when and if that happens. All right. All right, where are we? What pet tubers do you watch? I don't really watch that many. I do watch Kasha from Creative Pet Keeping. I watch Simply Beta, Aquarium Co-op. Who else? Bob, Steamfrost Aquatics. I watch him. As in pet, Solid Gold. I do like her videos. I don't really watch that many. On the whole, I sort of like dip in and out of maybe others, but they're probably the ones I would say I watch on a regular basis. All right, what should I do? I'm not sure what the question is. Oh, I see. Okay, so you have a bumblebee beta fish, but it looks like it's dying, flopping out of the water, staying in one place. I would start by checking your water parameters, making sure that it's not the water that's the issue. Also look at your tank setup. Is the tank heavily planted or heavily decorated? But I'd definitely start with your water parameters to start with. This is a fun idea. I've been caring for fish over 30 years or so. Great questions. Okay. Really depends on the fish. We have a very calm female in with the guppies. I went to a breeder to get her, so I could really see her personality. Pick one that doesn't flare like crazy. Yeah, that's a really good thing to do, I think. If you have a 50-gallon tank, can you put the females together? Like the ones that are together at Petco. My answer is going to be the same no matter size of tank. We did it in a 20-gallon long, and we also did it in a 75-gallon, and the outcome was still the same. So I would say that to me it really wouldn't matter how many. To me it wouldn't really matter tank size. It wouldn't matter how many beta fish that you got. To me, I have done a full circle on it. In my thinking on whether it's something that is good or not. So my opinion's not going to change on that. I think that I think probably what a lot of people do, and it is what we used to suggest doing, and that's like buying them all at once, so that you've got them all at once and then you're not adding separate ones, and then they can be quarantined all together at once. That I will say was successful in getting them to live together, but it's usually you will hear people say, oh, I set up a sorority and it's going just great, and they're like 2 weeks in, and it's a case of we'll give it a month or give it 6 months or even a year. I mean, they fail, they eventually will fail at some point down the line. It is very rare that they just keep going and going and going. And when people have got them like that, they are constantly losing beta fish and having to keep adding them in. So just all I would say is do a lot of research, do an awful lot of research, and go from there. But yeah, it's not something that I would go with. I had 7 betas. It's a lot of work, and I don't think people who don't have fish realise how. Oh, where did that go? Oh, message is gone. All right, okay. Too many Mandy, need extra tanks, sometimes it may not work. Yeah, that's very true. You do need to make sure you've got a backup plan for sure. That's for sure. You really do need to make sure that you do that. All right, guys, well, I think I am going to call it there. Like I said, I am going to try and do this once a week. Like I say, no promises. If schedule might get crazy a bit, but I am going to try and do it once a week, and nobody seems to have the 6 p.m. on a Friday time slot. It's probably not the greatest time, but hey, that's okay. But I think that we're going to give it a go and see what happens. So my sorority has been running for over a year now, doing good so far. I do watch it closely though, yeah. I think that's the key. I think that it is something you need to know the behaviours and what you're watching for. I do think that is one of the key things in there. All right, guys, well, thank you so much for joining me this evening, and we will see you in the next video. Like I said, I do have one coming out on Tuesday, a really, really, really cute Belfin one. I do hope you guys like it. So show him some support when that video comes out. He's very excited about it. You know what he's like. He's an absolute camera hog. And in fact, when you see some of the footage, it looks like he is terrified of the camera in the earlier footage, and that actually was the case. That is the way he used to be. I'm giving some hints away here, but that is the way he used to be, whereas now, boy oh boy, he's a camera hog. So, all right guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you on Tuesday.